Well, what's great about the story you'll be hearing about later today is an emerging story. So up to now we found 2 aircraft. You'll be hearing about a story about only one of those 2 aircraft that were found. But there's a whole additional story of what happens with those remains when they're recovered by the U.S. government and the announcement to the family. So it's a story that's ongoing. There's so many other partnerships we're looking at with GoPro in terms of just getting the messages out regarding the oceans, science, getting kids stimulated about science and technology, and what better platform than to use GoPro for that.
Definitely. So, and you worked with and collaborated with a high school?
Right, so one of the high schools that we partnered with is Stockbridge High School out of Michigan. Landlocked state, they've good on them, they've developed their own remotely operated vehicle, and so they've a few years now been able to raise enough money to come out to Palau and deploy their vehicle on some of the wreck sites that have been found with the underwater technology that has been brought out.
Okay, cool.
So it's been real great for them because they've been able to work alongside a lot of the engineers that we bring along from Scripps and the University of Delaware. We've got the historians from Prop Project working alongside them as well, so it's an experience that they probably wouldn't be able to get any other way.
So do you foresee this kind of project going global as far as searching for further remains?
We hope so. Right now, it's estimated just from World War II alone, there's probably 40,000 missing U.S. Servicemen in underwater areas. And so there's a lot of areas that still have not ever been surveyed or found. Still a lot of stories of family closure that need to be told.
Okay, cool.
And what was the feeling when you first saw the wreck, when you'd been looking so hard and you came across that kind of first realization?
Sure, I mean, it was a very humbling moment. You know, on one hand, you're very excited that the fruits of your labor, all this effort, you spent about 12 months doing the background research of where to actually stage your searches, conducting the research. So of course you're elated on one hand, but then when it dawns on you and you have to take a moment of pause that this is really an area that's hallowed ground with the remains of the airmen still on board.
Yeah, very cool.
And the mission was to find 200 MIAs, correct? Was that what we read?
Well, there's many MIA remaining still, even in this Pacific island nation of Palau, and so we had identified a number of targets, sort of our top 10 search list, and are continuing working on those. We estimate there's probably about 80 or so missing just within the lagoon waters attached to these 30 missing aircraft.
And are you doing anything with the oral histories that the natives are providing you?
Yes, so in fact, Prop has been visiting Palau for 20 years now, and they've been doing an excellent job of interviewing elders, many of them who were children during World War II. So a lot of the information that was used as part of this search that you'll be hearing about was guided in part by a youth who was hiding in a tree when he saw an airplane splash down in the ocean, and knowing where he was when he told the story later and being able to give an idea of where the general area was, we were able to blend that in with a lot of other modern day information that we had.
So being a very well-experienced ocean explorer, do you think that there's still a lot of opportunity out there for recreational divers to discover their own pieces of history?
Oh, I think so. I think especially in many of these areas that have significant historical value, I think divers traveling, that they owe it to themselves to read up on some of the local history, because you never know what you may stumble upon.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a very important thing in the dive industry, that we forget when we go to these places that they do have their own history, and you are experiencing a different world, of course.
And when you're diving, it's not as if you're following well-trodden trails and pathways. You're truly exploring it. So being able to be aware of what you may actually find while you're underway.
Were any of the locals involved in the exploration and actually in the underwater part?
So there is a local that's worked closely with Prop for the last 20 years, and we have local dive shop support. We work with a biologist who's lived in Palau now for 20 years, Dr. Pat Cullen from the Coral Reef Research Foundation. So he has quite a bit of local expertise in boats that we have access to, working closely with them.
Okay, very cool. Well, I think we're super glad to see the work you're doing, and we look forward to the future and see what other great projects you have going on. So it's wonderful to talk with you here at DEMA today, DEMA 2014. It's wonderful meeting you.
All right, thanks for the interview.